There are moments in life when blessings arrive not as noise but as whispers. When God begins to elevate you, He often does it in silence. Because true prosperity is not about what you can show the world, it's about what God is forming in you when no one is watching. Many people pray for wealth, but few understand the weight of it. Money is not just a reward, it is a test. It reveals character, exposes motives, and measures wisdom. So when God begins to release the resources you've been praying for, when that money comes, when that door opens, when that opportunity finally arrives, don't run to announce it. Guard it. Protect it. Let your success grow roots before it grows branches. For sometimes premature exposure kills divine purpose. God's blessings are safest in quiet hands because what is born in silence carries eternal strength. When God decides to bless you, He often does it quietly because divine elevation is not meant for public announcement. There is a reason heaven works in silence, for the noise of men can drown the sound of instruction. When you begin to sense that something is shifting, that favor is finding you, that doors are opening which you could never open by your own strength, that is the moment when your wisdom is tested. The moment money begins to move in your direction, people will suddenly appear, voices will call, and expectations will rise. But God does not bless you so that you can feed curiosity. He blesses you to fulfill a purpose. Every blessing carries a responsibility, and every resource demands maturity. If you talk too soon, you invite distraction before direction has been fully formed. There are seasons where God hides what He is doing because exposure too early will destroy what He is building within you. Imagine a seed planted deep in the soil. It cannot shout that it is growing. It must stay buried until its roots are strong enough to push through the surface. Many people lose divine opportunities because they talk about their process before they complete it. They announce increase before integrity has been tested. They show wealth before wisdom has been established. Money is not just a financial resource, it is a spiritual revealer. It will show the true condition of your heart. If your heart is not disciplined, what should have been a blessing can become a burden. When you ask God to bless you financially, you are not asking for numbers in a bank account, you are asking Him to trust you with stewardship. That means He must first refine your attitude towards influence, pride, and secrecy. There are people who cannot handle abundance because abundance exposes what poverty hid. You must learn to carry prosperity in silence, to walk in favor without the need for validation, to handle breakthrough without broadcasting it. The loudest success is the one that speaks through consistency, not announcement. There is divine wisdom in staying quiet when money begins to flow, not because you are afraid, but because silence is strategy. When you are silent, you give God space to solidify what He is doing. You give yourself time to adjust your mindset, to align your purpose, and to ensure that your blessing does not become your downfall. Sometimes people are not your enemies, but their curiosity is dangerous. They may not mean harm, but premature revelation can open doors that should remain closed. When you tell everyone about your increase, you invite expectations that were never assigned to your destiny. You must protect what God is doing in your life until it is mature enough to stand public pressure. Remember, not everything God gives you is for display. Some blessings are private agreements between you and heaven. They are meant to build your faith, not your fame. When you begin to prosper, learn to differentiate between testimony and exposure. Testimony glorifies God, exposure glorifies man. The more you talk about what you have, the more you risk losing focus on why you have it. God's blessings are never meant to feed your ego, they are meant to advance your assignment. If your wealth draws you away from your purpose, then it was not wealth, it was a test you failed to pass. The danger of announcing your blessing too early is that it invites spiritual warfare you are not yet prepared to fight. Some battles are unnecessary, created by the attention your own words attract. The enemy cannot attack what he cannot see. Your silence is your shield. Your humility is your covering. When God promotes you, He expects you to stay grounded, to remain teachable, and to manage success with discretion. There is power in letting your results speak for themselves. The people who are truly secure in their calling do not need applause to confirm their value. Before you reveal what God has done, make sure you have the character to sustain it. Wealth without wisdom is dangerous. Influence without instruction is destruction waiting to happen. God gives you resources not to make you comfortable, but to make you responsible. Every blessing comes with a test. Can you remain faithful in the spotlight as you were in the shadows? Can you handle recognition without arrogance? Can you stay generous without losing discernment? The true measure of prosperity is not how much you have, but how well you manage what you have been given. The quiet season of blessing is not punishment, it is preparation. God uses silence to shape your motives, to purify your desires, to build your discipline. If you cannot handle private success with gratitude, you will mishandle public success with pride. That is why He hides your increase until your mindset matches your mission. When that money comes, when the opportunities align, when you finally begin to see the manifestation of what you prayed for, you must remind yourself that this is not for display, it is for destiny. The more you grow, the less you talk. The more you receive, the more you discern. Silence becomes your safety, and discretion becomes your strength. In this journey of divine prosperity, the goal is not to impress the world, but to impact it. There is no need to prove anything to anyone when you know who your source is. God is the provider, and when He blesses you, He expects you to honor the privacy of that relationship. Some people cannot handle the details of your destiny. It will either breed jealousy or manipulation. Protect your peace by protecting your progress. Speak less, act wisely, move quietly. Let your life become the sermon, not your speech. The maturity of a believer is shown in how they handle prosperity. Many can endure struggle, but few can survive success. Struggle humbles you, but success exposes you. That is why God trains you in obscurity before blessing you publicly. He watches how you handle little before He gives you much. If you are faithful in the unseen, He will trust you in the visible. But once the blessing comes, your wisdom must multiply. Do not trade revelation for recognition. Do not let applause distract you from assignment. When that money comes, don't tell anyone, not because of fear, but because divine blessings are sacred. Sacred things are not to be shouted about, they are to be lived out in quiet obedience, in faithful stewardship, and in humble gratitude that says, Lord, I know where this came from, and I know why you gave it. Prosperity is not a destination, it is a test. It is not the evidence that God loves you more, but that He trusts you with more. When God brings wealth into your life, it is not only to bless you, but to measure you. The test of prosperity is often harder than the test of poverty, because when you have nothing, you depend on God for everything. But when you begin to have more than enough, the temptation is to forget who gave it to you in the first place. Prosperity reveals the heart in ways poverty never can. It exposes what truly sits on the throne of your life. Many people pray for financial breakthrough, but few prepare their spirit for the responsibility that comes with it. Money is not evil, but the misuse of it reveals evil motives. It magnifies your inner condition, turning your private thoughts into public actions. When you begin to walk in prosperity, the first thing God looks for is whether your priorities remain the same. Can you still kneel in prayer when you have what you once cried for? Can you still give with joy when giving no longer feels like a sacrifice? Can you still love people who can do nothing for you now that you no longer need them? Prosperity tests humility. It asks if you can remain grounded while standing on higher ground. It asks if you can still serve when you no longer have to. It asks if your character can survive comfort. The wilderness humbles you, but the palace exposes you. And the true evidence of spiritual maturity is not how well you endure hardship, but how faithfully you handle abundance. When God increases your resources, He is not changing your assignment. He is expanding your influence. But if you are not disciplined, prosperity will shift your focus from purpose to pleasure. That is why many lose themselves when they gain wealth. They forget that the purpose of increase is impact. God will never bless you beyond your ability to manage. He does not promote greed, He promotes stewardship. Money is a servant, not a master. When it begins to control your emotions, your peace, or your relationships, it has become your idol. The test of prosperity asks, can you own money without letting money own you? In the season of prosperity, you must also learn to guard your heart from pride. Pride does not always scream. Sometimes it whispers through comparison. It tells you that you are better because you have more, that you are wiser because you succeeded, that you are self-made because you worked hard. But every blessing you have is a result of grace. You may have sown the seed, but God gave the harvest. You may. I have worked with your hands, but God gave the opportunity. You may have made the plan, but it was God who established your steps. Prosperity becomes dangerous when gratitude disappears. Gratitude keeps your success holy. It reminds you that you are a manager, not an owner. The test of prosperity is also a test of discipline. When God blesses you, He expects order. He watches how you plan, how you spend, how you give. Prosperity requires boundaries. Without boundaries, blessings can turn into bondage. Many destroy their financial destiny not because they lack income, but because they lack instruction. Wealth without wisdom leads to waste. God gives increase so that you can multiply His purpose, not magnify your image. That is why He trains your hands for business and your heart for humility at the same time. He prepares you to handle open doors without losing your spiritual direction. The true test of prosperity is not in how much you gain, but in how much you can give without fear. The level of your generosity reveals the level of your trust. If you hold tightly to what God gave you, you are telling Him you do not believe He can give more. Prosperity matures when generosity flows naturally, when you become a channel instead of a container. God never intended for you to hoard blessings. He designed you to distribute them. The more you bless others, the more you are trusted with greater resources. Prosperity is a cycle of stewardship, not a station of comfort. Another part of this test is how you handle relationships. When prosperity enters your life, it attracts attention, some pure, some poisoned. People will begin to see your value through your possessions, not your purpose. You must be discerning. Not everyone who celebrates your blessing understands your assignment. Prosperity will test your discernment of people. It will show you who is drawn to your destiny and who is drawn to your dollars. You must learn to keep wisdom as your closest friend and humility as your strongest guard. The higher you rise, the quieter your circle must become. The more visible your blessing, the more invisible your planning should be. Prosperity is a divine privilege, and privileges demand privacy. There is also a spiritual test in prosperity. God watches to see if you will still seek His presence after He gives you His provision. Many forget the altar once the answer arrives. The same voice that cried for breakthrough now grows silent in abundance. But prosperity is not supposed to separate you from God. It is supposed to draw you deeper into gratitude, dependence, and purpose. God does not bless you to lose you. Every promotion should produce more prayer. Every increase more intimacy. Prosperity should not make you comfortable. It should make you accountable. When money begins to flow and opportunities begin to multiply, remember that prosperity is not permanent without purpose. If you disconnect your wealth from your divine calling, it will eventually drain your soul. That is why many rich people feel empty. They gained the world but lost the meaning of it. Prosperity without vision is vanity. God gives wealth to fulfill His will through you, not to make you an idol of your own success. Every coin you earn has a kingdom assignment attached to it. Every dollar has a destiny if you allow God to guide it. The test of prosperity is whether you can let God remain Lord even over your wallet, your plans, and your pride. The quietest test of prosperity is internal. It is how you treat people when you no longer need their help, how you think of yourself when others praise you, and how you manage what no one sees. Wealth gives you options, but character defines your choices. God uses prosperity to see whether you still value people above possessions, principles above pleasure, and purpose above popularity. He is not impressed by what you buy. He is moved by what you build. Prosperity should be building something eternal in you: discipline, humility, and vision. So when that money comes, remember, it is not a trophy, it is a tool. It is not a symbol of success, it is a sign of stewardship. God is not testing your wallet, He is testing your will. The way you manage prosperity determines how long it stays and what legacy it leaves. Every dollar you receive asks one silent question: will you serve your purpose or your pride? The test never ends. The reward depends on how you respond in silence, in gratitude, and in wisdom. There is a sacred power in silence, a divine wisdom in secrecy. When God entrusts you with blessing, He expects you to protect it with discretion. The discipline of secrecy is one of the greatest marks of spiritual maturity, for it separates those who crave attention from those who carry purpose. When you are walking in divine favor, you do not need to broadcast what heaven is doing. God's movements in your life are not for public entertainment, but for private preparation. There are moments when silence becomes your strongest strategy, because not everything that is true is meant to be told. Some things are too sacred to expose before their appointed time. When you receive the blessing, whether it be money, opportunity, or influence, you must learn to cover it until God says it's time to reveal it. Every divine promise carries a process, and every process requires privacy. When you tell everyone too soon what God is doing, you invite voices that were never meant to influence your destiny. People will speak opinions over what they don't understand, and their words can create noise that drowns out God's direction. Secrecy is not about fear, it is about focus. It protects your assignment from unnecessary interference. It gives your faith the environment to grow without contamination. The discipline of secrecy teaches you to value what God values. It trains you to handle blessings without turning them into performance. There are people who cannot keep divine secrets, and because of that, their blessings slip away. God is not only watching your faith, He is watching your restraint. Can you hold your tongue when your heart is excited? Can you stay humble when your hands are full? Can you carry the weight of favor without the need to flaunt it? True strength is not in shouting what you have, but in guarding what you know. There is a reason why great visions are born in private places. Moses received the 10 Commandments on a mountain alone. Jesus prayed in solitude before performing miracles in public. Joseph had dreams that changed nations, but his mistake was sharing them with people who were not ready to understand them. Sometimes your words reveal your destiny to those who will destroy it out of jealousy or ignorance. That is why God hides you before He reveals you. He hides your progress behind silence until your purpose is too strong to be broken by opinion. Secrecy also preserves peace. The moment you announce what you have, you open the door to comparison, envy, and competition. People will begin to measure your life by your possessions, not by your purpose. They will misunderstand your calling, misinterpret your motives, and misuse your trust. Silence protects you from the noise of validation. It reminds you that you are not living for applause but for assignment. The discipline of secrecy keeps your eyes on the source, not the spectators. It keeps you grounded when success tempts you to rise above wisdom. When you learn to stay silent, you create room for discernment. Not everyone who listens is loyal. Not everyone who smiles is sincere. Some people come to gather information, not to give support. When you reveal too much, you give access to those who may not have your best interest at heart. Protecting your vision is not selfish, it is spiritual stewardship. It is not prideful to stay private, it is wise. Because the more you speak, the more you expose. And what is exposed too early becomes vulnerable to attack. That is why you must learn the divine rhythm of revelation. Show what is mature, hide what is growing, and guard what is sacred. The discipline of secrecy is also about trusting God's timing. Sometimes you want to show what He has done, but He says, not yet. The blessing must be fully formed before it can be displayed. Just as fruit ripens in hiddenness, blessings mature in silence. When you reveal something too early, you rob it of the strength it needs to endure public pressure. Let your progress develop quietly, so that when it is finally revealed, it will not need defending. A testimony that matures in silence becomes unshakable in noise. Secrecy does not mean isolation, it means intention. You can share your heart with those assigned to your destiny, but not with those who only watch your journey. There are confidants and there are spectators. You must learn the difference. Confidants carry your burden, spectators crave your business. The discipline of secrecy allows you to build with the right people and hide from the wrong ones. Even Jesus had levels of relationship. He spoke to the crowds, shared with the disciples, but only revealed His deepest moments to a few. You cannot give everyone equal access to your life. Access must be earned by discernment. When prosperity comes, when that money begins to flow, when opportunities increase, your silence becomes a wall of protection around your purpose. The more valuable something is, the more hidden it must be. Gold is buried deep in the earth. Diamonds are formed under pressure in darkness. Seeds grow in soil before they rise into the sun. Everything precious begins in secret. God operates the same way with your blessings. He allows them to grow in the unseen until they are ready to withstand exposure. If you talk too soon, you might invite storms before the foundation is set. The discipline of secrecy is also a lesson in humility. It teaches you to find satisfaction in God's approval rather than man's acknowledgement. When you stop seeking validation from others, you begin to hear the voice of God more clearly. You realize that your value is not measured by what people know about you, but by what heaven has placed within you. Silence refines your intentions. It purifies your motives. It removes the need to prove yourself. It reminds you that success is not about being seen, but about being effective. There is a deep spiritual strength that comes from quiet progress. When you move in silence, the enemy cannot anticipate your next move. He cannot disrupt what he cannot detect. That is why the enemy loves noise, because noise reveals location, and revelation invites opposition. The discipline of secrecy keeps your movement invisible until your mission is complete. Your silence confuses hell because it cannot attack what it cannot identify. Learn to speak only when the blessing has matured into testimony. Speak not to impress, but to inspire. Speak not to boast, but to build. Speak only when your words will glorify God more than they glorify yourself. Until then, remain silent, remain steady, remain strategic. The less you talk about your blessing, the longer it lasts. You must understand that divine favor carries divine responsibility. God does not trust secrets to those who gossip with his gifts. If he cannot trust you to keep quiet about what he is doing, he will limit what he gives. Some people lose blessings, not because they misused them, but because they publicized to them too soon. Heaven honors confidentiality. When you guard what God gives, you prove you are worthy of more. Secrecy is not the absence of truth, it is the protection of purpose. So when that money comes, when success finds you, when doors open and abundance flows, remember the discipline of secrecy. Let your actions speak louder than your announcements. Let your life testify louder than your lips. Move quietly, build silently, grow privately. Let your success make the noise while you keep your spirit still. In that silence, you will hear the voice of God guiding you on how to manage, multiply, and maintain what he has entrusted to you. Every blessing from God carries intention, and wealth is no exception. Money is not just currency. It is influence in motion. It is a tool in the hands of purpose. When God allows resources to come into your life, he does not do it to make you comfortable. He does it to make you capable. Wealth is not given to make you a collector of things, but a carrier of vision. It is not a sign that you have arrived, but that you have been assigned. When money comes into your hands, heaven is watching to see what mission it will serve. The true purpose of wealth is not accumulation, but contribution. It is meant to advance what is eternal, not inflate what is temporary. God never gives you increase without intention. Every financial blessing has a divine reason attached to it. There are people you are meant to lift, visions you are meant to build, needs you are meant to meet. Money in the hands of a wise believer becomes a bridge between heaven's will and earth's need. It builds schools, feeds the hungry, supports missions, empowers families, and funds dreams that glorify God. But when purpose is forgotten, wealth becomes a distraction instead of a direction. The danger is not in having money, but in letting money have you. When wealth begins to define your identity, you have lost the very reason God trusted you with it. The purpose of wealth is to reveal God's kingdom on earth. Prosperity is not for pride, it is for purpose. It is a message to the world that when God blesses his people, he blesses them with order, excellence, and influence. Through your stewardship, others are meant to see the character of God, his generosity, his integrity, his creativity. You are a manager of divine resources, not the owner. That means every decision about your money is spiritual. How you earn it, how you spend it, how you give it, all of it reveals who is truly Lord of your life. The purpose of prosperity is not independence from God, but deeper dependence on him. When God gives you more, he expects more from you. Increase demands responsibility. The higher your income, the greater your impact should be. True wealth is not measured by how much you can keep, but by how much you can release without fear. Wealth is not about having abundance, it is about being trusted with abundance for divine work. You are a distribution center for heaven, not a storage house for self. God looks for people who can channel resources to the right places without corruption of motive. The flow of provision follows the flow of purpose. When purpose stops, provision stops. The purpose behind wealth is also to test your priorities. God will allow you to prosper to see what truly rules your heart. Will you use it to honor him or to elevate yourself? Will you build his house or just decorate yours? Will you use your influence to lift others or to silence them? The answers are not in your words, but in your spending. Money reveals your values more than your speech ever will. Where your treasure goes, your loyalty follows. That is why the purpose of wealth cannot be separated from the purpose of the soul. Until your heart is aligned with heaven, your hands cannot manage wealth wisely. Wealth is also a weapon in the kingdom of God. The enemy uses money to corrupt, but God uses it to construct. Money builds platforms where truth can be heard, justice can be defended, and compassion can be demonstrated. Every believer with wealth has been called to warfare, not with swords, but with stewardship. When you fund what is righteous, you push back darkness. When you give strategically, you break systems of poverty, ignorance, and oppression. Wealth with purpose is a force that changes nations, educates generations, and opens doors that prayer alone cannot open. Prayer brings vision, provision brings execution. Both must walk together for the kingdom to advance. The purpose of wealth is not to separate you from others, but to serve others. You were not blessed to sit higher, but to reach further. Every blessing you receive should make you more generous, not more distant. True prosperity multiplies compassion. God blesses you so you can become a blessing that blesses others. When you keep everything for yourself, the flow of divine supply begins to dry up because heaven cannot fill hands that are already closed. The secret to sustained prosperity is circulation. What you release will always return, multiplied by grace and guided by purpose. Wealth also reveals character through management. When you start managing well what you have, you prove to heaven that you are ready for more. Management is the language of trust. God will never give you what you pray for until He sees how you handle what you have. If you waste, He withholds. If you steward, He supplies. The purpose of wealth is not found in prayer alone, but in principles. God is a God of order, and He blesses order. When you plan, budget, invest, and give according to wisdom, you activate the laws of increase. Wealth is not random, it is a reflection of discipline aligned with divine purpose. The purpose of wealth also extends to legacy. What you build today determines what the next generation inherits tomorrow. You are not supposed to end blessings, you are supposed to extend them. Wealth is generational in design. It is meant to create stability, opportunity, and continuity of purpose. The money you manage now is not just for you, it is a message to those who come after you about how God's people handle prosperity. If you use it selfishly, you create greed. If you use it purposefully, you create greatness. A godly legacy is not just wealth left in hands, but wisdom left in hearts. When you understand the purpose behind wealth, you no longer chase money, you attract it by vision. Money follows purpose the way rivers flow toward the sea. The clearer your purpose, the stronger your financial flow. Vision creates value, and value attracts provision. People do not give to needs, they give to purpose. When your purpose aligns with God's will, resources begin to find you. Heaven funds what heaven designs. That is why you must always stay connected to your calling. Do not let money distract you from mission. Let it serve your mission. The purpose of wealth is also to glorify God through excellence. When the world sees how you manage success, they should see the difference divine wisdom makes. Your business, your giving, your leadership should reflect God's nature: strategic, ethical, generous, and disciplined. Every decision should say something about the one who blessed you. Prosperity becomes powerful when it preaches without words. People should look at your life and see stewardship, humility, and generosity in motion. That is how wealth fulfills purpose, by becoming a testimony of divine order on display in human hands. When you finally receive what you have been praying for, you must remind yourself daily that wealth is not the goal, it is the gear that moves the mission. If money ever becomes the master, purpose dies. If purpose remains the master, money serves with power. The danger is not in possession, but in perspective. The moment you start seeing money as the meaning of life, you lose the meaning of why God gave it. The purpose behind wealth is worship through stewardship, managing what you have with gratitude, and giving what you have with generosity is the truest form of worship. So when God blesses you, when the money comes, when abundance begins to surround you, do not say, I made this happen. Say, I was chosen to manage this. You are not the owner, you are the overseer. Your name may be on the account, but heaven is the source. The blessing is not yours to boast about, it is yours to build with. Every coin is a seed, every dollar a tool, every opportunity a test. The purpose of wealth is not comfort, but calling. Not pride, but purpose. Not luxury, but legacy. And when you understand that, you will never fear success, because you will know why it came and what it was sent to accomplish through you.